let me go into an area that's of great interest to me, and I know to members of this committee on both sides, and that's the treatment of the PEG channels. And in 2008, this subcommittee held a hearing on public, educational, or governmental, or PEG access to television subscribers. At that time, several companies were denying PEG channels treatment equal to basic commercial channels. PEG supporters have filed petitions at the FCC to assure fair treatment of PEG channels. When I urged prompt resolution of those petitions at our FCC hearing last year, Acting Chairman Kopp said, "It is my hope," this is a quote, "that the Commission will take whatever steps are necessary to ensure that PEG channels remain a vibrant and valuable service." 1 year later, the FCC has apparently still not resolved the situation. Now, some of us have been around long enough to remember that when this great bonus of cable television went out, it was with an understanding that the local community would have access through these channels. And everything from the local Little League football team being able to present their awards live or taped on a local channel, to the local church having a Sunday service, to whatever cultural and ethnic groups wanted to go on the air, they could do it. And what's happened is that more and more people are making it hard for them to function. And in some cases, we hear stories out on the West Coast and other places where the channels now have moved from the first 15, 20, 30, 50 channels to channel 800, and it's a drop-down menu, and making it almost impossible for you to get. Now, I think eventually, as we begin to trade off support, as we always do, you know, where you have some issues that you want Congress to support you and Congress needs for you to do something, this little issue of PEG channels may become a very difficult issue, because on both sides, people support the fact that there's this public access and it's important. So before I ask you what's happening, I'm telling you that this has to be dealt with fairly and strongly. Otherwise, we're going to have some very difficult times between this subcommittee and the FCC, because we will not sit by and allow the FCC to allow commercial carriers to just push these folks aside.
I appreciate the question. There's been some good news with respect to PEG, and there's also a lot more work that needs to be done. So one of the major disputes that existed was one involving Comcast, and that now has been, there's been a satisfactory solution there. We'd be happy to review it with your staff and make sure that it's satisfactory to you and your staff. But our understanding is that the PEG community is satisfied with how that was resolved, and that obviously involves many communities across the country. There's at least one other major provider where there is an ongoing dispute. It has not been resolved, and I can assure you that we will go back and make sure that it is on a track toward resolution.
Now, do you feel that there is a concentrated effort to move them off the bands, if you will? Is this indifference by the major carriers, or is there a plan here?
Well, I don't know that I'd be comfortable characterizing their points of view. The issues tend to come up, as you know, in conversions to digital, and sometimes the conversions are done to digital transmission of video services in a way that leaves PEG behind. That's what creates the issue.
You know, when you buy a house or get a co-op, you don't leave some of the members of the family behind, right? You move them all to the new place and you all celebrate. And I think that what's happened is that the FCC has not regulated these folks, and you do have the authority to do so on this particular issue, to say this was part of the deal. And we remember the deals. I mean, I remember in the Bronx, which took longer than most places, as you know, to get cable, that those were the agreements. Now, they've done pretty well there, but in some places, they're totally forgotten.
The issue remains, and we will work with you closely on this. My hope is that the successful resolution in one case can be a model for successfully resolving it in others, but there's no question that the rights of PEG channels to have access to systems and access to the audience have to be honored and enforced.
Okay. Now, taking Mr. Covelson's approach of being more direct, you do have the authority. Do you intend to use it to make sure that they're not left behind.
Sure. We intend to honor the statute here and take this very seriously and make sure that PEG isn't left behind. PEG channels are not left behind.
Okay. I understand your desire to honor it. I'm going to take it a step further. I hope you get angry, because I think as we deal with bigger issues, or what some people perceive as bigger issues, these will be left off the table again, and we can't do that. Which brings me to my next question, which is another favorite subject of mine, and that is, why can't the FCC do what some of us would want to do with all federal agencies, but since you have a broader understanding of a lot of issues, why do you find it so difficult to understand that we have 50 states and territories? Why do the territories always lag behind in anything the FCC does? Why do we have American citizens who have the least access to the Internet in places like Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and Samoa and so on? Why, when we put forth a plan, we always seem to say for the states and the territories? And understand, this is a mantra of mine with every federal agency. But I don't have oversight over all federal agencies, and we do over the FCC. So why is it that at every turn the territory is always left behind?